I mean, the biggest deal was this year I just caught my bites. My practices are all about the same. I mean, I didn't have any extraordinary practice. You know what I'm saying? I did at Pickwick. Now, Pickwick was a different deal. I found the mother lode there, but the rest of the year was just normal. You know, normal fishing. The big deal was I think because I fished a lot, that when I got that bite, you know, and you know that, man, 2 bites a tournament are what separates 30th from first. I'm telling you, there's not that much difference in our bunch. You know, it's just catching everything that bites. And I had 2 fish this year that I lost that I remember. You know what I'm saying? That's it. And I'm sure I lost some other ones, but 2 that I know counted that I lost. One at the Delaware and one at Dardanelle. And but other than that, when I caught those bites, you know, I mean, was the biggest difference. And I attribute that to fishing a lot, because I stayed on the water every day. So, and you know, I'll tell you another thing. I felt like I was a lot more, by fishing a lot, you get kind of desensitized to it, you know? You know what I'm saying? I wasn't overly jacked up. I'd be so jacked up after we go a month between tournaments. I'm just, raw when you get there. Well, after you fish you about 2 or 3 in a row, it becomes monotonous, but you just get a lot more laid back, which, you know, that's kind of always, for me, my whole career, like I always done better when I fished 2 tours, because I fished a lot. You know, I don't pre-fish. I just feel like since I don't pre-fish, it's just good for me to be on the water every day, because I kind of stay in tune with what's going on, you know, what's going on. Now, I didn't really start off, you know, I mean, I missed him, wasn't very big. I didn't start off very, you know, very fast this year. It just kind of seemed like that, you know, the more I fished, the better I got. Mm-hmm. I did this year, you know. Well, not so much this year between tournaments, because there wasn't that much time between tournaments, but like I did during the, you know, before the year started, I tried to fish a lot, you know. I say a lot, you know, I try to fish 3 or 4 days a week just to get, you know, get everything going before, you know, it's the funny thing, like I mean, winning Bassmaster Angler of the Year by far is, to me, the biggest thing I've ever done or whatever, but this is not necessarily the best year I've ever had. You know, I finished second in both tours. That was a better year than this year, you know, as far as consistent finishes. I mean, I was that close to winning in the Angler of the Year, you know, but again, that goes back to all my better years were when I fished 2, you know, when I fished a lot. Now, with that being said, when the Elite started and I quit fishing FLW, we fished a lot. I fished in 18 events. So I didn't have to, but then as you know, then it got to be where, you know, they cut back to 8 tournaments. They got rid of the majors, and we're fishing 8 tournaments a year, you know, over 8 months. You know, I can't. And I'll tell you what happens. I wouldn't get into fish a lot between the tournaments, you know. You know, there's a lot of other things you have to do, you know, as you progress. You know, things are a lot different now. I used to leave the tournaments and, you know, go home and do whatever. Well, now I got to go home and do something else. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times I'll have a mindset of the way I'm going to look, and then once I get there on the water, I do 360 the other direction. I can't tell you why, but I'll just get a feeling. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll have in my mind kind of, you know, the way I think things should be, and then get there and go to fishing and think I'm gonna go that way and end up going that way, but just because of the way it fit, you know, the conditions. And you know, again, like I said, I typically don't pre-fish for a tournament, you know, and just kind of fish whatever's going on then. And I think that's kind of where I get that from, you know. And you know, that's pretty much the way I fished my whole career. I've always fished that way, so I just kind of go with my gut instinct and what feels right to me. And you know, honestly, typically I don't share water with people. I very seldom ever, you know, have conflicts with other anglers. You know, I just typically always kind of do my own thing, and so that's another reason that I keep fishing like that. Now, with that being said, you know, there are times, like, there are certain situations when, like, take Florida, for instance. It's hard to do well there fishing like, you know what I'm saying, getting away from the crowd. A lot of times you just have to. But the rest of the country, you can pretty much get by with fishing like that and not have to be around the, you know, not be around the competitors. It just seems like when you go to Florida, the fish will all be concentrated in one area. If you're running down the lake and you look and see 8 or 9 boats in an area, there's a big wad of fish there. That's the reason they're there. And when you're riding in those big areas where you don't see anybody, I know there are not any fish there. You know, but other than Florida, the rest of the country, north, south, east, in between, whatever, you know, you can typically find, this is the deal. When you're fishing on a place by yourself, you don't have to find the biggest school of fish in the lake. If you don't have any other competitors to compete with, you know, you don't have to be on, you know, hundreds. You know, the deal is in 4 days, you need to be able to weigh in 20. You know, so that's another, you know, for me, that's another big plus to, you know, fishing stuff by yourself and doing your own thing. It's the biggest reason I don't talk to locals, and I can tell when a lot of guys do, because it'll concentrate them, because that's where the locals think they ought to be. Well, I figured out a long time ago that most of the time, our tournaments, if they're one-day tournaments, they're won the way the locals say they should be. But because our tournaments last for 4 days, you know, so many times the guy that does well is doing something on a body of water that's never been done there before, you know. So that's another reason I think, you know, I'm better off personally to do my own thing.
Your time on the water is I'm guessing, what causes that instinct?
I guess.
Right.
I don't know. You know, I really, I wish I could answer that, but I just get these gut feelings. I don't know.
Right.
You know, and I just always done that. So but I, you know what? I take the good with the bad, and that's the other thing that I have figured out. Now, a lot of this has been, you know, a learning experience for me and myself, is to, you know, I don't always think right. You know, occasionally that doesn't work, but the deal is it works enough that, you know, regardless, I figured out another deal. When I think that's where we should be, just put everything down and go right there. You know, don't hesitate, you know.
Were there key techniques this year for you that you were able to carry to multiple lakes, or was it different every place you went?
It's different everywhere we went.
Yeah.
I mean, I started off the year, it was all about, for me, it was like a square bill and a lipless crankbait. That's kind of how the year. Then we went to Florida. I caught them swimming a jig. I go from, where did I go? Then I went back up the country and it's freezing cold, and I caught them cranking in a swim bait. Then I go to Seminole, it's a lipless crankbait. Then I go back to the St. John's, it's all about a shimmy stick on bedding fish. I leave the St. John's and go to Rayburn, I caught them all swimming a jig. From Rayburn to Table Rock, and I caught them cranking, you know. We get back to Toledo Bend, I catch my biggest ones on a drop shot. I mean, at Toledo Bend. But you know, I mean, that's kind of how that's just kind of how the year went, you know. I mean, I don't, I mean, I caught them deep on tournaments when they should have been shallow, and I caught them shallow on tournaments when they were supposed to be deep, you know. So I don't, you know, that's fishing though.
Right.
And the other thing that, you know, I mean, that's just keeping an open mind. the tournaments that I did the worst in, I got closed-minded, you know, and
Like what?
well, I got burnt out. I mean, you know, I had some, you know what I'm saying? You know, I had some issues where I didn't want to be versatile. I just wanted to hurry up and get them over with. And I'm like, well, I'll do this. You know, I can get by with doing that. Don't work. You know. My 2 worst tournaments. One was here, and it was the deal. Like I was like, it's Kentucky Lake. I'm gonna catch them cranking. Well, they didn't catch them cranking, and I didn't either. You know what I'm saying? But the deal was, I didn't want to slow down. I didn't, you know, it was my practice. Because in my practice, I didn't want to slow down out there and drag around, you know? I wanted to wind. I wanted to pull up where they were, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you know what? And I got my butt burnt because of it, and I never changed, you know? The 2 worst tournaments here in Beaver. Now, Beaver, my biggest problem was, I had a good first day at Beaver. Conditions changed. The second day got slick and sunny, and I needed to get my spinning rod out and a light line and grub me out, you know? And I didn't want to do that. I was kind of burnt. Again, I was ready to get home. I was like, nah, I'll go up here where the water's a little more off-colored and fish the way I want to. And that didn't work. You can't do that, you know? I mean, that's...
Check us out at wired2fish.com.